Hey, it's Chris with the Golf Aggressive podcast, aka The Game. I'm joined by our tamed golf pro who has some tips for you this week that are almost borderline explicit. There's a lot of bouncing, humping, pumping, and heavy breathing in this week's podcast. And I'm joined by our tamed golf pro, Richard Guzzo, aka Ricky Trevino, because he dresses like Ricky Fowler and he looks like Lee Trevino. Welcome, Ricky Trevino. How are you?
You know I had to do that.
Did you get your horn installed yet? Because I know that I sent you the link to that to actually buy that horn.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it. It's only like $99.
There's no gonna. Why don't you just right now
Yeah.
pull up that Amazon page and buy that sucker?
Yeah, I'm gonna get the one with the remote. So I don't even
I
have
want
to
to
be in
see.
the car.
I want you to get Olivia, your daughter, to get your camera. I want the horn installed, and I want you to play the horn for your wife, and I want to see her reaction. But she's very, very business-like.
Yeah,
She's in the military. She's all business. I don't think I've ever seen her laugh.
Yeah, I'd like to. I've already got it planned out. There's the bag drop at the golf course. It's the pickup line at the school. That's going to be a good one.
The bag drop at the golf course. You got to do that when they have a tournament and there's a bunch of guys either loading or unloading, because when you blow that horn and you get out of that car and there's a bunch of golfers there, mob like the Beatles were when they came to America. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. So I'm definitely going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I expect to see it ordered today. I mean, all this talk about it for 2 weeks, you've been talking about it, and I haven't heard it on your car yet. Is it a Fusion?
Yeah, it'll happen. I don't know where I'm going to put it. That engine bay is not very big, so we'll see.
Well, they even have a wireless one.
Well, that's what I'm going to get. Yeah, I don't want to have to put in wires. I'm just going to hook it up to the battery, and then you just hit a remote.
I like that. Yeah, so that's going to be a nice addition to the and you can even take that out and put it in the golf cart.
Yeah.
The club, can't you? That'd be whoa. Got that Alexa thing going. Let me ask it a question. Alexa, who is Tiger Woods?
Tom Tiger Woods is an American professional golfer who is among the most successful golfers of all time.
Alexa, go screw yourself.
Well, thanks for the feedback.
So we got that. That's new. That may come on at times. I don't know.
I thought you had to address it, so it just came on automatically there.
I guess I said something that sounded very similar.
Huh.
To that, and it just may come on. So we'll just deal with that as it happens, and we may ask it questions.
Yeah, let's get swing tips from Alexa.
So we'll get started here in a little bit on the downswing and the transition phase, because we get a lot of emails and Facebooks concerning this one thing, and even consistency has popped up this week in a lot of people. And I think they're all really kind of related to the same transition phase and getting the club on the right plane for the downswing.
Yeah, I mean, it was like someone wanted a drill on swing plane, and then everything kind of tied in. This one drill can work on swing plane, transition, weight transfer, so everything, and then consistency. So this one drill can basically cover all of those areas if done.
It was a really good. We're going to do that every week, I think, or every other week. Have a little Q&A and then come up with some solutions on your most pressing issue. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Tap In Challenge. That is underway. It's well underway. I think we're in beginning of week 3.
We're in week 3, yeah.
Okay, so everybody has reported their secondary results, and why don't you kind of talk about the progress that you're seeing there in the report cards that are coming back?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same old thing where, the first guys that are on the top of the leaderboard, I know I'm usually on the up the top there on the first week, but when you have high scores and you consistently keep those high scores, you fall down the leaderboard in the second assessment. So that doesn't mean that they're not improving. It's just that they had set a high benchmark.
Their range of success or is so much more narrow than somebody who's in the 90s or the hundreds.
Yeah, but we had some really big movers. So whether it was they just didn't know the first assessment and how to get a whole, the jits of it, or they're actually seeing some improvement. So it's usually a bit of a mix of two. But the 3-hole challenge, I mean, we had some guys, high 15, 20 point variance from the first assessment. So, and the 3-hole challenges where we're hitting to 3 different targets, and that's at 10, 20, and 30 yards. We're hitting 6 balls to each, and based on how close the ball is to the hole is how many points you get. So, so Nathan is at the lead now on that one because he went from day one, he had 11 points, and then he's got 36 points now. So that was a big jump. The consistency challenge is the one I like. That is basically
that's the more realistic one.
Yeah, it's a chip, and then you actually
from a random location.
Yeah,
and then put it out.
Yeah, so everyone seemed to improve with that one. A couple had 1 or 2 that shots worse, but they were again still pretty decent scores. And then the median. This is the one where they're going to see huge differences when it comes to transferring this to the golf course. So if we can shrink that median distance that you consistently chip to, you're going to make.
Basically, we're trying to shorten their putt.
Yeah,
with this one.
So 7-8 feet was from Mika that is got the top of the leaderboard on that. Went from the first assessment to the second, so he's seeing.
What is he at now?
So he's at
where is he?
5 foot 4 inches.
That's where he's at right now.
Yeah, he started at 13-1. So
whoa,
so
his percentage right there. I mean, he's going to shave. Let's just say he did that 18 times in a round. He's 13 feet out.
I mean, the one that
he might make one of those.
Yeah, the one I really like, Jeremy, is at second spot, but he started at 7 foot 5 inches, and now he's down to 2 foot 2 inches. That's almost, that's a gimme. I mean, if you can get that down into that range, I mean,
that's
going to
pro.
Yeah, that's going to save you so many shots on the golf course. So, so that's where they stand now. It's looking good. We've got one more assessment to go, and we'll wrap up that challenge, and then we'll roll into the power and distance challenge. I thought it'll be a little bit of an overlap, but with no workouts in the tap-in challenge, this will be an easy transition.
I mean, we have them doing the EMF, which is to kind of get them a little more flexible and maintain that flexibility. But we've got the power and distance coming up, which is a lot more intense. So, and I think it's at the perfect time because you think about the holidays coming up. It's going to end right before Thanksgiving. So then you can have that week off into Thanksgiving. And then we'll talk about what kind of challenge we want to do over the holidays. And
OPP, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll be doing the off season. But we're going to build in what we're going to do is I think a lot of people, they get so wrapped up in work parties and Christmas parties and shopping and just dealing with horrible, shitty Christmas music.
Terrible.
Shit just drives me crazy. Hate it. Anyway. So
you got sidetracked.
I got so upset over Christmas music. I just can't stand it. I don't know why.
Now I'm going to need a Christmas song soundboard for you.
There's no Christmas in Caddyshack. Thank God.
I'll find a soundboard for you.
So, we back into the tap in. A lot of the guys when they start focusing in on the short game, they kind of neglect the long game, which is why I think we had this question. And even Dave Hansen said, he's working hard on the tap in and that's going good, but he said he missed all but one fairway the other day when he was playing golf. But, I want to talk about Dave a little bit. Last year when he came to us, he was barely breaking 100. He was barely breaking 100. And now he's in the low to mid 80s, and he's come close to breaking 80 several times. So we're almost there with him. But one of the things that kind of set him back was the driving. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Rich, I don't know if you have the questions there. You can read the person's name and their question that they wanted answered.
For the swing plane?
Yeah.
Oh, it started out with one of the members had a in to out swing with one club and then an out to in swing with another club. So it wasn't a matter of you need to change it. I just wanted to give them my input on the swing plane and the more important aspect of how to change swing plane, because there's a process. You just can't go out there and say, well, I'm going to swing it here, here, and here, and I'm going to get it into this spot here. It just doesn't work that way. And the worst thing is that most people try to do this over the ball. And so they've got all these things running in their head and it just doesn't work well. So I outlined what I consider the correct swing plane, looking at 9 o'clock position with your alignment. And then from there, what you need to do to take the club back. But more importantly, what it takes to make these changes. So it's being referred to on Facebook as the pump, but it is essentially that is making sure the checks, one, your alignment's correct, get to 9 o'clock.
I actually used the pump at Troon and I played really well, but I wanted to talk about the hump, because you had the hump, the triple B, which you and I know what the triple B is, the real triple B. And
the Body Beautiful bounce.
I'm a little upset that you put that out there, because that's mine. That's like a wrestler's finishing move.
Oh, that's standard with, and now I'm stealing the triple B. So I thought you'd be used to it.
Jared Muse gave me the Body Beautiful because I used to work out all the time back in the day. Now he owns a CrossFit gym and he still calls me Body Beautiful. So I need to go in there and maybe teach him a few things. But the Body Beautiful bounce, if you guys don't know, was my seduction technique on cart girls.
You need to demonstrate with the video on this one.
I can't. I mean, we have a male audience here, so if I did that, it'd be a little weird. It'd be uncomfortable. But if you get me around a cart girl, I'll bust that thing out for you.
Okay. Yeah. So the question came up with sliding, and I wasn't sure. And the thing is, this drill works with both. Whether it was sliding away from the ball or sliding through the ball at impact. So, and the triple B is basically where you're bouncing on your feet evenly, and it just activates the feelings that you have in your lower body. You're not really changing anything. You don't change posture. You don't change swing. All it does is it activates that feeling on your lower body to where you're more aware of it through the swing.
Right. And this goes hand in hand, I think, with what Jamie Scobie was asking, who's also in the Facebook mastermind of the single digit blueprint. And he said he read a thing in Ben Hogan's book about the knee placement and the knees pointing slightly in. I think what Ben was trying to accomplish there was to avoid that sliding.
Slide action. Yeah. Yeah. And I actually look at doing the opposite when you get older, because typically when you get older, your swing gets shorter. And so in order to get that swing back, you would actually open the right foot up a little bit.
It's almost like you can't do an exercise properly, so you recruit the wrong supportive muscles to try to lift that weight instead of using your primary movers.
Yeah. So and it's the same thing. So if you do an angle with your right knee, right foot, it will change the course of your backswing. So if you bring it in, most likely you're going to have a restricted backswing, flare it out. So for the Ben Hogan tip, it's more for me looking at how the swing and how long and short it will be versus the slide action. It will fix it, but I mean, with the bounce technique, it's not changing anything with your swing. So if you swing it long and you want to keep it long, this bounce technique will avoid the slide but keep the swing length. So,
right, and we also have the problem of the reverse pivot that we've seen. We've seen a few videos where these guys, they do have their knees properly.
Yeah, but the reverse,
they do get a good coil, but they kind of lean back.
Yeah. So the reverse pivot is when you're taking the club back, and instead of the weight transferring to your right, if you're a right-handed golfer, it's actually swinging back to the left, and then you flip through the back the other way through the impact zone. So with the reverse pivot, it's more, you're more likely to make a change with the swing plane drill than it is with the bouncing effect.
Well, I think also because I was just watching Jeremy's swing here, where he does the reverse pivot and he has a little bit of a slide that.
Well, the triple B is going to help. The triple B will help, but when to overcure or cure a reverse pivot, he needs to know where the weight needs to be on the backswing. So
let's talk about that. Where in your foot should that be when let's start with weight distribution in slow motion from address to 9 o'clock to 10:30 to full backswing and then back down. Why don't you tell us what you feel?
Well, for Jeremy's case, where he's got the reverse pivot, he's better off doing a drill to where when he takes the club back to the top, taking the right foot off the ground altogether. That would be the drill to basically, you need to activate that sense that the weight's not going on the left side. So it goes worst case scenario, we're going to throw all the weight onto the right. He needs to get that feeling.
So you then lift his left leg.
Yeah, when it gets to the top, takes the whole left leg off the ground. And so what that does is it gets that feeling that, okay, this is, and then gently puts it down and then feels, okay, this is where the weight transfer needs to be, making sure I don't slide. So that would be the case when it's trying to fix a reverse pivot.
Well, let's just back up. Why don't you tell us, from a good golfer standpoint, where your weight is through the entire swing, from address to 9 o'clock to 10:30. Tell us how that weight gradually changes from right side to left side. When does it change at the top of the backswing? What do you feel? So the other golfers out there, they know what to look for.
Yeah, so if it's everything's even, flat, nothing that's changing from the lie perspective, 50-50 at start, switch it probably to 70-30, maybe I'll probably go 60-40.
That's on each foot, but where on your foot would you feel this?
I wouldn't even get to that. I wouldn't even worry about that. Unless you're looking at weight distributions maybe too far on the heel or too far on the toe, I wouldn't start worrying too much on if it's on the right or left. I would just factor that both feet are firmly planted evenly.
So evenly everywhere, even on your foot.
Yeah.
So kind of
now, if you're trying to do some drills to restrict certain movements to where, like, you put a ball on the right side of your right foot to where it's on an angle, so you can hit these descending swings. It's kind of changed the swing plane up that way. That will change the focus of it. But for the most part, I don't like to look into, like, it needs to be on the right or left side. Just keep it even. Okay.
So 9 o'clock, where's your weight? What's your weight distribution on that?
It's starting to move towards the right. Probably still, I would say 60-40.
Okay. And then 10:30? Pretty much fully loaded there?
Yeah, you're getting there. You're never going to be fully loaded. You're still going to have some weight on the left side. But I would say probably 70-30 then. and then you're looking at maybe 80-20 at the end.
That's full backswing.
Yeah. So,
right. So then let's
if you
talk
can
about
get to that,
transition. Let's talk about the transition now that we're at the top of the backswing. We've got 80-20 weight roughly. And,
right.
take that with a grain of salt because everybody's going to be different.
And it's going to depend on what lie and what club and all that kind of stuff too. So
we're just going to pretend we have a flat lie here.
Yeah. So the transition, there's two versions of it that I prefer, and that's just for me because the other method kind of brings in sliding. So if you're aware of it, fine. But my key is I want to ingrain from the top portion of your swing down to 9 o'clock. That's the movement I want. So I want that ingrain. So it's more of an arms only transition.
Well, let me talk a little bit about what Jack Nicklaus says right here at the transition. Because I think the main problem is that people, they want to kill that ball. I mean, it's a hitting sport. So they get to the backswing and then it's just like, muscle time. I want to kill that ball. And I'm the worst at that. But Jack Nicklaus said his transition to begin the downswing happens at the same pace that his backswing took place. So
right.
What you need to view it as is if you're doing that, where you're going to get your power is from that whipping action. So if you have a good hinge on the way down, when you release that hinge, because gravity is going to force you to, that's where you're going to get your club head speed and your power from. So the transition phase, which you're about to explain, happens at the same pace as the backswing. So why don't you talk about the pump?
Yeah, so the pump, there's two versions of it. It's arms only, so you'll get to the top and you're just going to pump it back down to the 9 o'clock position. And making sure that you've got that hinge, it's in the right position, it's going in the right plane. The second version is it's slowed down a little bit more to where when you start that pump down, your lower body is moving with you. It replicates how your swing will be in the actual.
So what you're trying to do is just train your brain of how the arm should react.
Right, because it's not something you want to think about.
Spin out.
Well, it could be
a nice drop.
Yeah, it could be over the top. It could be underneath. It doesn't matter which plane. It's really just training your brain where your arms need to be at all points in that backswing. And it's also a drill that you do away from the ball. So if you have a pre-shot routine that has a box, this is not something you do inside the box. This is something you do outside the box. Then you forget about it, and then you move into that box for your pre-shot routine. It's one of those things in your swing you just don't want to think about over the ball. You want to keep it very simple when you're over the ball. Have a couple of swing thoughts or checkpoints that you do, and that's about it. So this is over time. That's the thing. It's the process. So it's one of those changes that does require time. You just cannot automatically say, and it could be not just swing plane. You could have a over the top or you've got a laid off club at the top. Because when I was a kid, I had a laid off swing, and this is how I got to fix it. I would just throw it to 9 o'clock, making sure that the alignment and the position is correct. From there, I can take it straight back up, and I'm on plane. I would pump it down to 9 o'clock just to make sure that that's my sequence of coming down on the transition, and that fixed the laid off club. So I had a huge laid off club when I was a kid. I would get to the top, my left shoulder would hit my chin, my head would go back, laid off club. It was a mess. I would get it back.
Can you bring that guy back so I can play you?
I'd still school you, but
I don't know about that with that swing. Sounds horrendous.
It still worked. I was able to transition it back. And that's like the video that Jeremy posted is that he got it on the inside, but if you notice at the top, his club head was pointed right, but prior his transition dropped it back into.
Well, he looks really athletic to me, and it looks like he has good hand-eye coordination. So the problem with that is if his timing is just a hair off, he's in big trouble with that, right?
Yeah, and that's it. That's really it. I mean, and we often find that timing leaves us when we need it most on the golf course. So, so that's where you'll have issues with, is that it's hard to replicate that. If you can replicate it every single time, then there's really, I mean, it goes back to everyone else's swing on tour is different, but they're able to replicate it. And that's really what it comes down to. So most cases, amateurs can't replicate it every single time the way they want to. So you have to fall back on doing these fundamental changes that will be bringing consistency.
So I guess what we're trying to say is, you know, there are some things that you can do before you swing, pre-swing, to train your brain. But they must be done in tempo, because when you get out of tempo, it's impossible, because you're fighting against the forces of the earth, gravity, all kinds of different forces. And if you try to rush things, you try to muscle it, you're going to lose. So that transition phase that we're talking about here needs to be done. I wouldn't say slowly, but it needs to be done at the same pace of your backswing. So you maintain that tempo, that nice smooth tempo.
If you do it slowly, you're able to find, you know, these feelings that you have through your swing, because when we're actually just hitting balls, it's so fast that you don't know how or what position and how it feels when the club's in certain spots. So by slowing it down, you're like, okay, when I get it here, I feel this with my body. Because sometimes the pump action, when you're working on that ingraining that position, will work your abs out. So when you're actually hitting balls, you're like, well, I'm not really feeling this ab workout, but so that means you're probably not getting in the same position. So it takes a bit of time. But yeah, so I like doing it slowly at first, just to feel where the club's at, what positions, what feelings you have in your body, and then picking it up the speed. Usually 3 pumps, and then on the 3rd pump, 1 full swing to get through should be good, especially on the golf course. You want to keep it simple, even with this drill.
This is the thing that I used in at Troon is it really helped with the tempo, but it also helped me feel like what I was supposed to be doing. And if you can tell your brain this is what it's supposed to feel like, it's going to be able to replicate that. If you get up there and you have no idea what it's supposed to feel like, the result's not going to be good. So, you know, I'm looking at Paul Rock's swing here. He's got a cool name, doesn't he? Paul Rock.
Yeah,
it's like he's a rocker or something. I'm looking at his swing here, and it looks like he's rushing that transition phase. We're not going to talk about his hand position, because it looks like he's trying to steer a car out there, Paul.
Yeah, so if you go back to the setup, I mean, it's in a position to where he's forced to bring the club on the inside. So from that position right along there, once he gets to the transition point, the only way to get it back is to flip it over. And so, I mean, everyone really commented, we just need to get him a little bit closer, make sure 9 o'clock position is straightened out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think
and that should
do that with him, and then get that transition smoother.
That's why the 9 o'clock position. Yeah, that's why the 9 o'clock position is so critical.
It's almost like a check, isn't it? It's an easy check.
It is. Yeah, you're going to look. Okay, my feet are at target. My hips. When you do your alignment checks, it's your feet, hip, shoulders, good to go. The next one will be 9 o'clock position, check. Because if at 9 o'clock position, if you throw the club back and it's closed, it's the first movement. Yeah. So the only way to get it back square is to drop it in or flick the hands through. Or so there's so many other things that you're fighting right off the bat. If you just do 9 o'clock, got it in the position that I need to be, that's first step. From there, take it back, make sure the transition's good, and then pull the trigger.
Right. So, you know, we talk a lot about feelings and getting the right feeling, and you should do this on the practice range before you take it out to the course and get the hang of it.
Yeah, I mean, once they've got the hang of it, but I mean, even if all they have time for is they're going to go play 9 holes today, as long as they do this away from the pre-shot box, I'm fine with it. They just have to realize that this is something you can't be thinking about once you've hit that pre-shot routine line.
So Rich, do you think like Charles Barkley's swing, like when he was like doing it in chunks, do you think he was doing the pump like during the actual swing?
The funny thing was his practice swings are fine. He doesn't have the stop or the pause. It's
like he was breaking it down into some kind of a dysfunctional, chunky.
There's like something there's like a wire
swing.
missing. Yeah, there's like a wire missing whenever he gets over the ball to where it just kind of snaps off and he can't get that transition going.
So was Hank able to save him, or did Hank just say, "I don't care how good the ice cream is at Charles's house, I'm out"?
I thought he did good at getting him to unhinge that pause that he had, but from what I've heard, it's gone back. So I think it's a mental.
All that time, like world-class golf coaching, couldn't even save that.
Yeah, but then I mean, we go back to the discussion about you can do these challenges and you see benefits from it, but then once we stop these group challenges, they tend to just stop doing it. So,
and I think that's why what we're seeing is because our last challenge was putting. Our previous challenge was red zone, 100 yards and in pitch shots. So they haven't had like a full swing in 6 months.
Yeah.
Roughly 4 or 5 months, 6 months maybe. So now we're going to start that on October 1st. We're going to go back and basically everything that we've talked about, minus the pump drill, which we're going to need to revise the power and distance to include that, is in there. I mean, we're talking about, your takeaway positions, your backswing, your weight distribution, all these things are inside of the power and distance challenge. We're going to start that October 1st. So the announcements will be coming out. So if you're not a member of the Single Digit Blueprint, you'll be able to do the challenge, and you don't have to become a member, but it's going to actually work out better for you because it'll be cheaper to be a member than to not be for that challenge.
Yeah, so if they're a member, they get access to all the challenges. And that's the thing, is that the challenges, then the range sessions are short enough to where you can couple 2 or 3 of them together. So if you go out to the range or the practice facility for an hour and a half, you could essentially do 2 or 3 of these range sessions. And
that's something we should probably do a better job with, Rich, is creating like how to program your practice and create a little PDF or something that they can write down, today this is what I'm going to work on. These are the drills. And you get all the drills from all of the challenges. So it'd be really easy to put together a full program if you wanted with what we have right now. But if you had an hour.
We focus so much on what's your weakest point in your game. Let's work on that. So, and then from there, kind of add in the challenges and other aspects to it. But,
really, even if you're an accomplished golfer, you need to be checking your basics all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've seen these professionals on the range and they're tweaking their setup and alignment, their grip, everything is checked. And that's really where we starts the basic fundamentals, and then we work our way out from there.
Yeah, it's like I looked at Billy Horschel's pre-round warm-up. They, when they film it from when he gets out of his car to
is this the angry guy? He yells at putts.
you say that. I to me, I think that's normal. But so what really surprised me is that every practice routine on a putting green does a chalk line. So he does a chalk line, and he does an alignment rod with 2 tees. And that is every single time he goes and plays, he does this.
It's almost boring. And here's the thing, you and I do this with business stuff and marketing. It's always fun to pursue something new, but when something's working, you just got to stick with it.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you want to change it? It's working.
Yeah. And that's where I look at these, and most of the time, or pretty much all the time, we have all these golfers that talk about, how it's changing the way they practice and prepare for either their rounds or their tournaments, and how it's actually benefiting them. But then when the group goes away, they still have access to all this information and all the challenges, but they tend to just kind of stop and so they go on hiatus for a little bit. So
It's
they
not
go
even
away.
that; it's that they look for something new when what they did worked.
Yeah,
but they didn't perfect it.
yeah, and I think we talked about this.
I don't think you ever can perfect it. And you know, we what's the one drill that we always go back to? It's the number
Tempo.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think I talked about this last week or the week before about, you know, at the very least, what I'd like you to see do, even if you're not in one of the challenges, is to take all 4 assessments from each of the challenges, and that'll be your range session. You can actually, so for putting, you're going to do 5 and 10 footers and drawback. For power and distance, you're going to calibrate your club distances, making sure you know your yardages. For the red zone challenge, you're practicing 50, 75, and 100-yard shots with your go-to club. And then you got the tap-in challenge. It's all around the chipping green there.
Yeah.
If that's all you did every single time you went out to the driving range, yeah,
you spent 15 minutes on each phase.
Yep,
that's an hour of really good practice. And not only that, if you go home and you do our secret ingredient, which is greasing the grooves. I mean, if you did this all winter long, you just did nothing but the greasing the grooves, you're going to have about a week period, 2-week period of breaking yourself back in, but you're going to pick up where you left off. Yeah. You're not going to lose your game. And that's kind of what we're telling you here is you don't need to spend 3, 4, 5 hours at the golf course. You know, like Rich is saying, if you stack these challenges together and build out a little nice practice program, which you can do.
And I also think you have to find what works best. There has to be a balance of practice and play. So this is going to vary from golfer to golfer. I've had friends who almost always have to go play and then spend very little time with practice, but that's how they got better. You're the range rat, so you're going to spend.
Yeah, but I practice like I'm playing.
Right.
So when I go out and play, it's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, and that's the balance that you have to find. You have to see what works best. And the only way to do that is just trying to change it up to see if I did this week, what was my scores on the weekend, and then assess and evaluate and address it next
the
following week. Because you might find that you need to go play just to be able to get that scoring ability, the scrambling effect, the pressure that playing on the golf course brings. So you might find
there's nothing. I mean, we try a lot to do pressure tests, but there's really nothing like playing around to get that pressure. So I see what you're saying, but the way we design the challenges, though, is that you do practice like you play. So if you don't have a lot of time, you can still get pretty close to that. And I think even this month, the Golf Channel is doing practice like you play month or pressure month, something like that. We've already got that built into everything that we do because that's the number one thing. Like Rich is saying, if you go out and play golf, you're putting yourself in a situation that's sometimes uncomfortable. And you need to put yourself in those situations if you want to lower that score, because it's those situations that you feel uncomfortable when you screw up. Those are the moments that you just totally screw up. So you need to know what that feels like and then work on those things. And I think our challenges do a pretty good solution to that problem.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on the what is it, the hump, the pump, and the heavy breathing? Because I watched that video, Rich. You're talking so fast. You're like going, and then you take your backswing, and then you just fast talker.
Well, I've had to slow it down for you because I know that you don't understand me when I talk fast. So
I'm from the South. I don't.
So
I can't understand that talk.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put a link to it. The swing playing video. It can really touch on pretty much everything from getting that into the right position at 9 o'clock, the backswing, what you need to do in order to get from the backswing back down to the ball, weight distribution. Add that with the triple B drill. If you're doing a swaying motion, these two drills really helped a lot of golfers. So
is there a way that we could put those 2 drills at the end of this podcast so they can, you'll actually be able to watch this podcast, I believe, because we'll upload the video version of this.
Yeah, I'll put them in the end. I can do that.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Because I think that these are, this is the thing. Hitting the ball, you've got to be on plane. That face has to be square. And this is probably the number one thing that we can focus on.
There was someone that asked me about, well, this will be different for every swing or every club. It's not the same for driver. And it actually is. It's the same principle. You're swinging the same swing plane. You're going to work on the same transition for all your clubs. So this applies to everything in your bag. It's not just your mid irons, or it's not just your driver. It's for everything.
Yeah, it's absolutely everything. And I think a lot of, Robert struggles with his chip shots because he's trying to rush that transition.
Yeah, well, that's that, and that's goes back to the, you want to see that ball go in the hole type thing, so you look up, or you're afraid at committing to the actual shot. I'm going to do some video on this week that's going to cover some chipping stuff. I've got a couple of items that I want to cover. One, how to accelerate the work on your landing zones. I also want to give my tip on bad lies. So I'm gonna get some video.
You're gonna add this to the tap in challenge and kind of revise it a hair.
They're just going to be supplemental things. I mean, when we assess where our landing zone is when it comes to a chip, we put a radius out. The goal is to shrink that radius so that we get more precise. If we can identify this is where we need to hit the ball with this club and let it roll out. The goal is to get that landing zone as small as possible and consistently hit that zone, because then we have better chance of it getting close to the hole.
I think that's why Tiger Woods was so good in 99, 2000, 2001. Steve Williams even said, like, he would point to a spot.
Yep.
Tiger was hitting that spot. Like, he wasn't missing it. It was just hitting that spot.
Yeah, there used to be there's a guy in Australia called Noel Blundell, and he's kind of like the Bob Rotella over here equivalent. And I remember he came and gave us a lesson at Corelban, and it was about training your visualization before your shots. He said he was working with professional golfer Roger Davis at this driving range, and he was hitting these golf balls at the shed at the end of the driving range, and his shots were going a little bit right of the shed, a little bit left of the shed. So Noel had told him, look, let's change your target from the shed to the door. And so from there, instead of missing it right of the shed and left of the shed, he's missing it just right of the door and left of the door. And it's just narrowing your focus down. And that's the same principle when it comes to the landing zone. So I got a drill for speeding that up a little bit. And the one on bad lies, it will take away basically where you're at. So you all you're focusing on is hitting the ball and eliminating all these other factors that come into hitting a bad shot from a bad lie. So I'll have those. I'm going to try and get to
those. I think they should add those to the tap in. Get that updated.
Yeah, there's another request for a 20 to 30 yard one hop and stop shot. I'll cover a few things on that. It's a hard one. There's a lot of variables that come into it, but I'm also going to cover that one as well.
Okay, perfect. So just to recap, we talked about a lot of random things, but the number one takeaway this week should be the pump and the transition of the downswing, and make that as smooth as your backswing. Make sure your arms drop into that proper position, and watch the videos. I think we're going to put 2 of them here at the end, and we'll just stack
Rich Guzzo here with golfaggressive.com, and today I'm looking at swing plane. I've had a couple of questions come in from our members. Jamie Scobie in particular is looking to make some changes on a swing plane. So what I like to do is go back to what I consider the correct swing plane, but more importantly, how to integrate a change. It's one of those things that it's not a quick fix, so it's going to evolve over a couple of weeks. But once you do it, it becomes basically automatic. You don't have to think about it. So starting out, I like to get an alignment rod down. I want to check 2 points. One, my alignment is all square with my target. I've got my 9 o'clock position. So if I take it back, this is my 9 o'clock position. I want to make sure that my club face is square. So if it's closed, I want to correct it. If it's open, I want to do the same thing. I want to correct it because this motion right here, this is a pivotal point. From here, I can take it straight back. And this is the swing plane I want. And from there, all I'm going to be ingraining is that downswing motion. So if I have a in to out motion, what's going to happen is you take it in here, you'll find 9 o'clock it's here, get it here, and then your first movement is over the line. So what we want to do is make sure we get that checkpoint correct first, straight up, and then ingrain it down. I like to do 3 or 4 pumps of that motion, and then 1 full swing. And so if this is where I'm hitting balls, I'm going to do this drill about 6 to 12 feet behind the ball. So I've got another ball here. So I'll do my drill here, make sure 9 o'clock is square, up, and then down, ingrain it, and then through. Key point here, forget about it then. Walk into your pre-shot routine with not thinking about it. That's the automatic process of muscle memory. So now I'm walking into my shot and I'm really just thinking about the key things, making sure I've set up correctly. I'm looking at my target. I might think, okay, nice smooth takeaway, and then pull the trigger. You're not thinking about this motion. That's where you do it away from the ball and becomes that muscle memory. I've had a couple of other members, Mika and Dave Hansen, asking about transition. So I prefer when I'm doing this drill is I take it to 9 o'clock and up and then down. It's more of just arm only action. And that's where, for me, when I do a transition motion where I'm actually mimicking the swing, this is where the transition component will come into play. Is when you come down, see where my lower body's moving with the club? That's where the transition motion is going to help. So for Mika and Dave, that motion at the top when you're coming down, I prefer just all arms because I'm really focusing on just this motion. But for a transition period in the swing plane, you take it to the top and work it down. The lower body is going to act like it would in the swing. So same principle, you're going to do the same thing away from the ball. So I'll have my little practice area here just behind the ball. I'll take it to 9 o'clock, make sure it's square. From here I take it back. The difference with the transition for Mika and Dave is I'm looking at bringing it down, but at the same time my lower body is coming down with it. It's the same motion you're going to have when you're actually hitting the shot. So if you feel like you get here and it's like this, then you can correct it. Bring it here, make sure it's nice and smooth. You can see the club is lagging back and it's on the plane that you want to make that descending blow through the impact zone. So you can do the same thing, 9 o'clock, up. I prefer just the arm drop, but when you're looking at transition, through with the lower body and then pull the trigger. Walk into your shot, same thing, just think about keeping it simple. Looking at your target, line up. I'm going to do a nice smooth takeaway and then pull the trigger. So there's my thoughts on the swing plane, but more importantly, how to integrate this change into your practice. Now I'm going to say, if you were to integrate this swing plane motion into your practice routine, a good 7 to 14 days. And I'm talking every single ball that you hit on the range, you're going to step back, do this drill, ingrain it, and then walk into the shot. After a couple of weeks, you can actually, I mean, if it's ingrained correctly, you won't even have to continue doing this. It'll just become automatic. So give these swing plane tips a try and let us know. Rich Guzzo here with golfaggressive.com, and one of our members, Dave Bean, wanted a quick tip on how to fix sliding. And it could be sliding away from the ball, it could be sliding through the impact zone. And I've got a quick drill to fix this. It's what I call the triple B, or the Body Beautiful bounce. And that's really all it is. It's the bouncing motion. What we want to do is activate the lower body so that we're more aware of it through the swing. So right now, if you're sliding away from the ball, it feels like we're not even thinking about the lower body, because you're just basically taking it back, and you don't realize that if I've got a center of gravity here, I've moved off it. And the same goes if you're sliding through the impact zone. So with this one, you could do it two ways. You could do it over the ball prior to hitting, or you could just integrate it into your pre-shot routine. So if you take a practice swing, and really all it is I'm going to bounce on both legs just like this. I'm not going to change my posture or anything. I'm not going to change anything else. Really all I want to do is activate that lower body centuries. So with this, I'll go straight over to the ball. Look at my target. I'm bouncing up and down. Now I feel that lower body a little bit more, and then I can just pull the trigger. So if you have an issue with sliding, whether it be off the ball or through the impact zone, give the triple B a try and let us know how that does.